Hello and welcome to Coach on Fire Radio. I am Paula Callick, your host of Up Your Vibe to Make Shifts. And today I wanted to talk to you about trauma and events. Maybe you have had trauma or events in your life that's affected your life right now as you allow that workhorse in your mind to keep going round and round and bringing them back to the present. Or maybe you don't even know what it is that makes you feel like your cup is half empty instead of half full. So today I have with me Wendy Smith, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about her experience and what brought her to where she is today. So Wendy, hello.
Hi Paula, lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. And how are you today?
I'm really good, thank you, yes.
So Wendy, what do you describe yourself as? What's your title?
So I would describe myself, one as a helper and two as a software engineer for the brain.
Wow, that's amazing. So what brought you to be passionate about this?
Life experience, basically. So I've had many chapters in my book, you could say, where I've had a lot of adversities to overcome, and one in particular that set me on a journey of helping others. First discovering about myself and then helping others discover about themselves too, so they can make great change.
Okay, so I know that something really dreadful happened to you. Was it in 1989, was it?
It was, yes. So I always had a love for motorbikes. My dad used to be a test driver for a motor company, so me and my sister grew up loving cars and fast bikes. And for me, September the 1st, 1989 was a night I will never forget.
Oh,
I was pillion passenger on my best friend's bike. I did have bikes of my own, but we went out together that evening and we crashed at high speed. So unfortunately for me, I ended up getting smashed quite badly in between the bike and a wall, and then between the bike and a bank. And I had multiple injuries. So broke the majority of my ribs, punctured my lung, fractured my skull back here. But the worst thing of all, I broke my back. I had what was called a compression fracture of 3 vertebrae around about here in my chest. And I got what they call a spinal cord lesion. So a cut through my spinal cord as well, which paralysed me in an instant.
And you were told that you would never walk again?
So yeah, I woke up quite a while later in hospital. I think it was around about a week later. And the doctors basically said to me, I mean, I was on a ventilator breathing, and yes, I couldn't move. But the doctor said to me, due to your injuries, you're going to be in a wheelchair for life now. And it was a really interesting thing, because even though I was paralysed, my head was telling me that that's not true.
And it wasn't true, was it?
It wasn't true, no. No.
Please don't keep our audience in suspense. Tell them all what happened about 8 months later.
Yeah, so 8 months. Well, I actually spent 3 months. I was moved to Stoke Mandeville Hospital in Aylesbury, which was lovely. It's a National Spinal Injury Centre. And the funny thing was, I had a very interesting spinal surgeon there. I've never had any operations, by the way. They just had to lay me on my back for 3 months. So I actually spent 3 months, if you could imagine, just laying down, having to eat, well, just do everything laying down for 3 months. I wasn't allowed to move, and I was paralysed.
Wow.
And I used to say to my surgeon, you know, the other hospital told me I'll never walk again. What do you reckon? And he just used to laugh and go, well, I'm always hopeful. And I thought, well, you know, that's not a yes, it's not a no. So, and like I say, in my head, I just had this strange thing in my head. Even though I was paralysed and I couldn't move, my head was saying, you're fine, it's okay, it's okay. And I think it was a couple of days before I was meant to be getting into a wheelchair after the 3 months that my sister was playing with my feet, and she noticed my big toe moving on my left foot. And she basically said to me, is your toe spasming or are you actually moving it? And I was like, I don't know. So we spent a good couple of hours staring at my toe, telling it to move, and it'd like twitch. And I just thought, oh, there you go. The toe moves, it's fine. You know, life will be all good.
Yeah, the big toe moves, so life's got to be great now.
That's it, it's fine. It wasn't as easy as that. I make light of it quite a lot.
You have to really, don't you, Wendy?
It was a massive struggle and a big challenge to get up onto crutches. the hospital kept saying to me, you're going to damage yourself the way you're walking. And I was like, I don't really care. I want to be on my feet. They wanted me to wear calipers. I just wouldn't wear calipers because I thought if I put these things on my legs, I'm never going to use my legs. Mm. So me and my sister, she helped me walking on my crutches in between parallel bars. And the hospital said to me, you can leave hospital if you can walk 10 paces on crutches on what they call a 4-point gait, which is this technical term I didn't know anything about. But it means you go crutch, foot. So you sort of walk as you should walk. And I couldn't do it. I could go crutch, foot, crutch, foot. So mine was what they call a 3-point gait. And I remember the day I walked 10 paces my way. Mm-hmm. And I just looked at them and just said, I've done 10 paces, sign the form and let me go home.
Wow, that just sounds like absolute pure mindset and determination.
Frustration and anger and being very stubborn, my dad calls it.
Well, I'm still going to call it pure mindset and determination. And I think frustration and anger does inspire that within you, because if you're absolutely determined to walk those 10 steps like you did, you have to draw on so many resources within your body. And if it means frustration and anger helps you to get there, why not?
Pretty much. Those were the two. When children, I do a lot of talking in schools, and when children ask me what drove you to get better, I do say to them, this is going to sound odd, but the drivers I had were frustration and anger. They were my driving forces. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad I had them.
Yes.
I don't think I think if I hadn't have been angry about it or frustrated that I couldn't move, I don't really think I'd have tried to get out of bed.
Your favourite saying is, attitude is everything, so choose a good one. Yeah. So how would you relate that to your experience?
So my attitude, it might not sound like a good one, but my attitude is, what do they know? They're not in my body having my experience. So how can it be true? This is, I think, where I got interested in belief systems. Yeah. Because back in those days, if you did something like what I did, they didn't have, the full knowledge of stem cell technology as they do now. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty much, you've done this has happened, so that means this.
Yes.
But for me, it was really weird because my belief system was, no, I'll be fine. And I said to the doctors afterwards, tell me why. Why me? Why am I walking and no one else with my injuries is? They're in wheelchairs or they're using calipers. They're seriously assisted. And no one could give me an answer, Paula.
No.
And that's where I started my journey of wanting to know why.
Yeah, why? I have a saying that I live by, and that's, from all adversity comes your greatness. And I can see that in you. You have a dreadful adversity. And instead of using the why me in a negative form, you actually use the why me in a positive form. Why can I walk when others can't, that's had similar injuries? And that is amazing that you turned that around. And before that time, you'd not had any training?
None whatsoever. Excuse me, I'm a little bit throaty.
So that just shows you how your attitude was very different to other people's.
I came from a very resilient background. I grew up in a pub. So my parents had a very stressful environment, and there was a lot of stuff that went on in that environment. So me and my sister grew up, we had a lot of life experiences. Mum and Dad made sure, because they didn't spend too much time with us, that we had as many, life experiences. We did everything with them, from deep sea fishing to digging up World War crashed aeroplanes in fields, to mum taught us to sew, to cook. So we had a vast experience, and my parents were very much from, there's no such word as can't. Mm-hmm. So if we said, we can't do that, they'd go, there's no such word as can't, don't be stupid. If we fell over, they'd just pick us up, dust us off, laugh at us and send us on our way.
And so did they have education in NLP or any other therapy?
No, none whatsoever.
It's amazing that they had that attitude and they've passed that attitude on to you.
Yeah, it is. And for me, I suppose being able to now apply what I've learned through belief systems, and I'm still learning. I've been on, it's been about 29 years now that I've been studying the why me. So what do I do differently on the inside to get to my outcomes? And that's where, like you say, it is mindset. It is whatever thoughts you're thinking are generating an outcome within your body.
Yes. Well, they're generating a physical experience within your body as well as a mental one and an emotional one.
Yeah. And I suppose the powerful thing for me over all the years of studying beliefs is knowing that actually we're pre-programmed with beliefs. So we all know, this is basic psychology, 0 to 7. We walk around in a mini state of like hypnosis, and whatever people are inputting into our system at that point, we then run behaviours round. Yes. When we get over the age of 7. So if people are limited in their thinking, it can be something as simple as someone's given them a little gift of a belief when they were younger, and that belief wasn't very helpful. And now they hold it as part of their own system, operating system, and they just run a program based around it.
And it's not impossible to change those programs, is it?
Not at all. No.
When you down forever.
Yeah, when you know how the first thing is becoming aware. So I always say you have to become aware. As soon as you have the knowledge that you are actually a pre-programmed system, I always talk about people like systems, like a computer. So when you know you are a pre-programmed system and you've got a lot of beliefs running at a level that you don't even hear, when you know that and you can become aware of that, you can then go, right, the behaviour I'm showing in this environment is not very successful. So what does that mean I believe about myself? And where did that come from? Yeah. Who was the first person I experienced that with? Was it a teacher, a parent, a sibling, a friend? And what you can do, you can sort of track back to where you picked up that belief. And then when you question it and say, you probably know the Byron Katie questions. Is that really true? How can you know that to be true? And you start unpicking the belief. It's very interesting how quickly it can fall away for you.
It can, but you have to be able to be open, first of all, to question it and to believe that you have beliefs inside you that aren't helpful, because like I said at the beginning, many people don't even understand that they are pre-programmed from even before birth up until the age of 6 is the main programming, but it still carries on throughout our lives that we pick up these beliefs. And if you're not aware that they're not helpful to you, how do you deal with them?
Yeah, well, if you think this is not taught to us in school, they teach us how to learn, but they do not teach us how our actual own system works.
Which is the most important thing of all.
It is, because if you don't know how this works, then that means that you can be running behaviours that you could stop, that you don't know. You just think, how many times do I hear this in the therapy realms I work in? My thoughts just control me. And I always say, but who controls the thoughts? And people suddenly sort of stop and go, oh, well, they've never considered the fact that the voice they hear in their head is actually their own voice. It's on an autopilot. Like, I suppose the things in the morning, if you think about, I try to say to people like this, think of all the things you do that you don't have to think about doing. So putting your socks on, making a cup of tea, driving the car. Do you have to, when you're thinking, when you're driving a car, do you have to stop the car to think and then you can drive the car again? Or does the car just drive because you're driving it at an unconscious level?
Yes.
And when people start picking it apart, how do you know how to brush your teeth every day? Do you have to relearn it? Or is it something you just do? And if you just do it, then where is the information stored?
Yes.
Because otherwise you'd have to relearn these things. So when you pull it apart bit by bit for people, they can suddenly become aware of, actually, there's a lot of things I do, like just walking. You don't have to think right foot in front of left foot, right foot in, you just walk.
That's right.
And you can think while you're walking. So that means you must have a stored knowledge base somewhere.
Yeah, the interesting thing about thoughts as well is that 70% of our thoughts are not even our thoughts. Well, I would say 100% of thoughts are not our thoughts. They're generally about what other people have said to us, what other people have done to us. And we just keep recycling these thoughts on and on, which aren't helpful. And 70% of our time during the day is spent on negative thinking.
Yeah, they're quite mad stats as well. If you think we have 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day, And they reckon the average is 70% are negative thoughts anyway.
Yes.
And you're only aware, like consciously aware of 3% of your thoughts.
Mm.
That's
And
not
if you equate that into energy as well, because of the energy depletion with negative thoughts is far more than the energy increase with happy thoughts, positive thoughts.
Oh, indeed.
It's easy to get into a downward spiral than to raise yourself up again.
Yeah, I always I say to people, if you think about your thought process as money, so every single thought you have is giving money out somewhere. So if you're having a negative thought, you're basically just wandering around the road giving people £5 notes and you're not getting anything back, and you only have £100 to start your day with. So if you can imagine at some point very quickly, if you're constantly having negative thoughts, you're in debt and you need to take out a mortgage on the body before you know what's happened.
Wow, that is a really, really good tip.
But the flip side of that is, if you're thinking nice thoughts about yourself or other people, you're giving out £5, but maybe you're getting £15 back. So you're getting like a lovely return on your money.
Oh, I love that analogy. I really do. That's so helpful to people listening, if they can take that on board and use that tip.
Yeah, I say, would you wander down the road just randomly with a pocket full of like £100 worth of in £5 notes, and just walk down the road and just give people £5 notes in a bad mood?
Well, you wouldn't, would you?
You wouldn't.
In terms of energy, that is what you're actually doing, isn't it?
You are. And you think about, have you ever seen someone who's had such a negative experience that you see them the next day and they just look drained? They look like they've aged 10 years.
And that's because of the physical responses that's going on in the body with the fight-flight response.
Yeah.
And you're firing off adrenaline and cortisol and everything that's getting you ready for fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely draining.
Yeah, it's just depleting your energy system rapidly. But the nice thing is you can do something about it.
Yes, you can. And you did something about it, didn't you?
Yeah. Indeed, yes.
Yeah, because you yourself, you are you went to the Olympics, didn't you?
I'm a former Paralympian wheelchair basketball player, yes.
And a training provider.
Yeah, I provide training. I would say I'm an awareness trainer.
And you actually qualified in quite a few modalities, aren't you?
Yes. But I love learning as well. Learning keeps your mind active as well. It gives you some value within yourself, and it also gives you value you can give to others.
Exactly. And when you are training, you're giving value to others.
I am, yeah. I work in many different environments as well. Like this afternoon, I'm going to, or later on this afternoon, because we're already in the afternoon, but later on this afternoon, I'm going to run an early evening training for some teachers.
Great.
So that's helping embed some learning with them on how they can communicate better, so effective communication. I work in schools with interventions with children. So I actually run programs for children. I've got some wonderful high schools I work with that allow me in to run Wendy-style trainings for children, so they can become aware of their belief systems and do something different. I work in government institutions, banks, sports environments. I mean, you name it, I can sort of take what I do into any environment, because it's just about creating an outcome using this.
And what sort of training do you do when you go into these places, into schools and into companies and into governments? I guess they're specific for each audience.
It would be very specific for each audience. So, for an example, in schools at the moment, I'm currently running a Make It Happen program, which is involved in creating a bit of awareness for year 9s and year 10s around university and their belief systems around it. There's many children that just dish off university and they think it's not for them because they have a belief system running around it that's like limiting them and preventing them from pursuing something that they'd love to do, but they think they're not capable of, or they don't come from the right background. Again, the belief systems have been set in early, Paula.
Of course, they are really very serious limiting beliefs that keep us stuck where we are. And you know, one of my early ones was I was worthless because I was born a girl instead of a boy, and I held that belief right up until my 50s, believe it or not.
I do. I work with people all the time with those worthlessness, hopelessness, helplessness.
Yeah, and the side effect is you have no confidence, you have low self-esteem, you're more likely to take up drinking or other habits that's really detrimental to you. I used to comfort heat, so I'd go up to a size 14 and then I'd shrink down to a size 10 or to a size 8 and then I'd go up. So I absolutely used food as a treat, which took me back to childhood. And people don't understand when they use that word treat. What is a treat?
Yeah, and the thing with schools at the moment, the stats are horrendous. I mean, 85% of all the children I meet in schools, because I do individual, like one-on-one interventions as well, where I clean their systems up so they can get on with life.
Yeah,
a good 85% of all the kids I meet in school have suicidal thoughts, they're self-harming, or they're seriously depressed or anxious.
Yeah.
And this is before year 9. So we're talking
something that wasn't even thought about when I was a child. You know, self-harm, it didn't exist.
No.
For children, poor mental health didn't exist. Yes, poor mental health existed, but it wasn't like it is today. We did have a mental health unit within our vicinity, but there was one that sort of served the whole of West Yorkshire. And now they're everywhere. Poor mental health is, unfortunately, big business. It keeps mental health units going. And I work in a mental health unit myself, and I see it. And I think it's just terrible that people do not have the tools in order to help themselves, and they rely on other people to fix them, when clearly people can fix themselves with the right tools.
Yeah, this is what we teach the children when we go into the school. So I run many different programs. A lot of them are based around their belief systems and how they've got to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So many girls nowadays, you know, they just feel like they're not enough because they haven't got the right hair, the right makeup, the right shoes, the right bag. They're not talking in the right way. Social media's obviously got a lot to do with that.
Yes. Yeah.
But they're not valuing themselves as an individual anymore.
No, and that's not just girl specific, it's also male specific and adult specific, because so many of us believe that we're not enough and we compare ourselves to others, which is the absolute worst thing we could ever do. But for you, you have absolutely showed your greatness through adversity because of what you do now by helping other people. So when we're talking about helping other people, what modalities do you actually use?
So the basis of everything I do is around language. So I became an NLP trainer because the language fascinated me. The reason I went into that was because I was so depressed myself. A friend of mine said, Wendy, go and do an NLP practitioner course because I'm fed up of listening to your negativity. Because I'd got to a point where I'd really dropped and got really depressed. So I trust her. She's a good friend and a good mentor. I went and did NLP, and it was like the biggest kick up the backside I've ever had. So when I came home, I thought, wonderful, all this is mine. Great, everything around me I've created. On the flip side, what it did for me is it made me then aware, blimey, if I've created that down there, what can I create up here? So then, obviously, as yourself, I then went and did my master's and then became a trainer because I thought, I need to use this everywhere and help people. So the basis is language. The language you use is very powerful. That's why they call it spelling, isn't it? Because you cast spells with every word that you use.
So, sorry, carry on.
Oh, that's okay. Well, the NLP, what I found with that, I had a lot of trauma. So I've been suicidal since I was 15. So I've had suicidal thoughts pretty much my whole entire life, every day. So learning NLP was nice because it gave me the ability when I wake up in the morning to do something about it. So to change the thought, to change my state, to change my energy. So I did that. But what I found was it still kept creeping back in. Mm-hmm. And then I met a wonderful man who invented something. He developed something for the army to get people out of states of PTSD. And he calls it spectrum-emotional-coaching. He tracked me down as a trainer and he said to me, I'd like you to train my product. Are you interested? I said, I know nothing about it. So you're going to have to inform me about it. And he said, have you got anything that NLP really hasn't touched that keeps coming back and getting re-triggered? And I said, yes. I thought I'll give him the biggest one. I said, yes, suicidal thoughts. every day of my life. So he just chuckled and he said, put Skype on and I'll do a session with you. And we spent 35, 40 minutes. I can't really remember what he was asking me because I had my eyes closed and I was doing stuff, putting colours in places and doing some weird stuff. I thought this is a bit weird. Afterwards, he said to me, now think about killing yourself. So I went, okay. So I went all around my head and I was thinking, this is weird. I'm not able to find it.
Wow.
I'm not able to attach to it, where previously I could do that quite easily. So I said, okay, then how long does this last? He said, that's it, you're done. He said, the information's recoded. The experience as you experienced it is now recoded. So unless you have another experience in life now that will, recreate that, that's it, you're done. And I thought, yeah, well, I've heard this before, 3 weeks later, we had a conversation because he said, I'll catch up with you in a few weeks and see how you are. And he said to me, tell me how many times you've thought about killing yourself in the last 3 weeks. And you know what, Paula, I was shocked. I hadn't even thought about not thinking about it. The weirdest thing had happened. The next morning, I hadn't even thought about it, totally forgot about the session. I just got out of bed and got on. And there was no thoughts. And it was really interesting. Now, this was quite a few years ago. And I got to the point where I can have the worst day on the planet. And before, I would just be thinking about how can I exit this experience. I can have the worst day on the planet and I can literally sit on my sofa at the end of the day and just chuckle to myself and go, that was interesting. And no matter how hard I try to pull up the thoughts, the old thoughts, I cannot connect to them. Now, for me, that has been an absolute godsend because it means I'm not battling something in the morning. I can just move forwards.
And you do sessions with people with this,
I do.
What's it called again?
Spectrum-emotional-coaching. It's something that you won't find on the market. He developed it. He has trained, I think we have now 460 practitioners of it in the country. But it's so powerful. I use it with everybody from mild anxiety all the way through to bipolar, PTSD, split personalities. I'm currently working with a lady who's had clinical depression for 50 years. Wow. She's been stamped. I do like a stamp. People like to label you really quick, don't they? Absolutely. She's had psychotherapy for the last 7 years, and the psychotherapist has given her a diagnosis of treatment-resistant depression.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, so I'll just stamp you on the forehead with that. And then she's come to see me. We've had 3 sessions, and now she's in the space of disbelief that her 50-year depression can go away. So now I'm walking her through the personal development bit so she understands her brain. But her system's been cleaned up. All the emotional weight is out. Now she's in a space where it's like, wow, there can be life. What do I do now?
So if someone wanted to contact you to book a one-on-one session with you, do you do this from where you live or do you do it remotely? How can people get hold of you?
So I have a space in Colchester that I use every Wednesday. So I have a lovely place at Play Golf in Colchester that I use every Wednesday.
Okay.
And I'm about to start a clinic up in Harley Street as well. So I've been asked if I can go and do it up there, which I've said yes to. It's just finding the appropriate day. And I also run sessions from home.
And do you do remote by Skype or Zoom?
I can do Skype. Yeah, Skype's easy. The first session I normally like to do in person because you connect energetically.
Yes.
So, and I can really delve into someone's experience. And the nice thing about this is it's content free. So I have no interest in the whys. So this is why the psychotherapy for trauma, it can work for other things, but for trauma can be quite debilitating because why do you think that was a problem? And who did you first experience with that? And why do you think they did? It takes you into the realm of re-embedding the trauma.
That's right.
So the first session I like to do in person so I can just get a feel of them. But I have clients in Australia, America, Europe that I obviously can't see. So I just do it via Skype.
So what is it that you do with people to help them develop the awareness of the human system and how they process information? What's your first steps with that?
So basic awareness training. That's the one place. So basic awareness training for me would be allowing someone to understand how their system works, that we process masses of information per second. I mean, the current school of thought is up to 40 million bits per second.
Yeah.
But you're only consciously aware of 134, and you have to delete, distort and generalize all of that incoming information that's coming in through your senses down to this tiny little dot of 134. So what you're focused on in life, basically, there's parts of the brain that whatever your thought process is will find it for you. It's
and like how does this help people get rid of their limitations?
When you become aware of something, then you can own it. So you go, yes, I know I now have this limitation. I know it comes from a belief system, and yes, it is mine. So first of all, we have to get them aware, so then they can own it, that they know it's theirs. It's not because someone over there is doing something that they feel this. Mm-hmm. They're generating it. When they're in that space, then we can change it. And we have, as you know, you work in similar fields to me, we have many different ways of changing things, whether we're changing pictures in someone's head, we're recoding experience, we're using questions. Sometimes it's as simple as having a solution-focused questioning session with someone. They realise, because if you can imagine, have I got a bit of paper here that I haven't. But if you can imagine you've got a big blank page, that's your day, and there's a tiny little dot in the middle, that is the 134 bits of your day. That's all you can focus on. So sometimes people's problems, it's like walking around staring at your big toe all day long, going, I have a problem, that's my whole world is that problem. Mm-hmm. But when they start coming out of that and they go, actually, no, that's a very small part of my day, and I have all of this experience that's not a problem, mm-hmm. then that puts them into a powerful place. They can put things into perspective, change the frame around it, and then begin to change it with whatever techniques would be suitable for that person.
And then this will allow them to become more motivated and balanced and more in line with what they actually want in life?
Yeah, it's the balance, I think, for finding for people. So they're not doing the spikes of emotions, because a lot of people, they'll find that one day they're really happy, then they're really sad. And it's like being bipolar, really, up, down, up, down. So it's creating that balance. So they're just riding on that nice wave, the normal wave. We have to have some negative to know what positive feels like.
Exactly.
Otherwise, if you live in a state of this awesome ecstasy all the time, if anything does go wrong, you can crash really hard.
Yeah.
But when you find that nice balance, and emotions are like waves, they come in and out, and it's just knowing that and knowing how to question yourself as well when you're in that space of going on the downward wave.
Yes.
How much of an issue really is it? And when you realise it's not, you can just go, oh, that's okay, we'll come up again.
So all's well and good when people have therapy and they start to address their issues. Yeah. But what can you put in place to help people when things start to slide again and they lose that balance? What do they do then?
So good daily habits. So remember, depression is a habit. Someone is really good at creating a state for a long period of time. So I always congratulate them. I go, well done. You're really good. You understand state control to start with, because you can hold yourself in one for a long period of time. Now it's developing the habit that keeps you in a balanced space. So I always say, I mean, you know this yourself, the first 20 minutes in the morning from waking up is the most important 20 minutes of your day. Mm-hmm. For the simple fact that you're coming from unconscious back to conscious awareness.
Yes.
So whatever you're embedding in that space is like the floor of your day. So if you can become aware as you're waking up what your thought process is, because your thoughts generate emotions, which generate chemicals, which then generate more thoughts and emotions. It's like a lovely loop that either goes this way or this way.
Yes.
I tend to wake up in the morning and I go balance. So how can I feel just, mine is peace and balance. That's my nice default. So it's finding a default that suits you.
Okay.
Because everybody's is different. So my default would be, I wake up and I go, right, what's the first thought? Oh, that wasn't a good one. Right, you can go away. I'm not getting out of bed until I'm in the space where I've got this going, today will be a good day. Mm-hmm. I'm not going for awesome, because I find that exhausting. So I'm not going like, whoa, yeah, it's going to be a great day. I've got friends that do that. For me, I'd be exhausted by lunchtime. So for me, it's peace. So I go, what thought gives me that feeling? When I have that, I then get out of bed. Then I do some things for me to stay in that state. Now, whether that be put some music on, meditate, read a book, but it's finding something for the first 20 minutes that's you creating your floor for the day.
So does that mean you'd probably benefit from getting up 20 minutes earlier just to do this?
Yeah, if you're rushing about in the morning, give yourself 20 minutes beforehand so you can have the you time. How many people have you time, like the me time? They just get up and go, I've got to do this for them and this for them and this for them. What about you? You know, your state and your health is very important. And if you're not in a good space, you cannot help anybody else anyway.
So what about if someone is not sleeping well? So it's really difficult for them to get up and be inspired because they've not really had a good night's sleep. They've taken lots of stuff to bed with them, because generally sleeping and dreaming, it's like a culmination of your day, and you're still going over it when you're going into sleep. So the unconscious is taking that on too. So they're going to be staying awake, they're going to be unsettled, they're going to be grinding the teeth. What can you do to help people like that really do feel they can't be positive in the morning because they've had a crap night's sleep?
Yeah, so there's probably a couple of things I'd do in that space. The first thing I'd want to know is, what have they got that's conflicting in their life? So normally when someone's in two minds about something, and it could be something as simple, they've had a conversation with someone and then they go away and mind read and start thinking about that conversation. Oh, did I say this? Did I not say that? Oh, what if they think this? What if they think that? Oh no, what have I? So they've got a conflict going on. Mm-hmm. Conflict can keep you awake. I would also look at their lifestyle. So I'd see what they're actually doing to keep themselves in balance. And if it is because they have so much in their head in the evening, get the social media, TV and that turned off an hour before you go to bed. So you start allowing your brain to come down. Yeah. Play some binaural beats or some theta waves in the background. So something nice. I normally use YouTube, put it on in the background. You've got binaural beats are wonderful because they're just brainwave frequency. Yeah. So you can start bringing your state down anyway.
I know that people are often looking for a quick fix, but there is no such thing as a quick fix. It's taken people a long time to get where they are. So to expect a quick fix, really, it's not possible, is it?
No, that's where drugs come into it, isn't it? Everyone's like, I want a quick fix, let's do drugs. That knock myself out. That's really not very helpful because it holds you in stasis and it doesn't address the underlying issues. Mm-hmm. And there's so many things. I keep a book next to my bed. So if I've got anything going around here, I turn the light on. Again, it's creating a habit. What do you do for your children if you want them to sleep? You bath them, you read to them, you talk to them quietly, you bring them down into a state, and then they drift off to sleep. It's no different for yourself. It's, again, creating a habit, because you'll create a stressful bedtime habit or you can create a relaxing one. Yeah. So some of it can be, someone just a bit of lavender oil on your pillow or something. These old school remedies, they really do work. Yeah. But I'd say brain dump. So one of the things I do, if I've got stuff on my mind, in the hour before going to bed, when I've turned my TV off, I just get a book out and I go, what am I thinking about? And I just start writing it down with solutions to it. The more you get out of your head onto paper before you go to sleep, the less the unconscious is going to be running scenarios for you while you're sleeping.
Mm-hmm. And it really does. Last week I had an incident myself with in a situation, and I came home and I was really angry about this situation, which is most unlike me. I can usually deal with things, but I really felt like I've been treated unfairly. And I came home and I was thinking about it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go to sleep. But I was thinking about it, and it actually woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. My teeth were aching so much, and I thought, even me, with all my qualifications, I've allowed myself to be suckered into this.
Yeah, I still get that. I say to people, we're not perfect beings. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Mm. So you just practice good habits so they become a permanent part of your neurology and your hardwired.
I just want the listeners to understand that, even people with all the education, best education in the world on therapeutic interventions, it still happens to them as well, because we aren't perfect as humans. We're imperfectly perfect, and that means that we all get caught up sometimes in our own stuff, and it is our stuff, and it's often because the other person dealing with you, that's their stuff, and it's their best way in order to treat you. And to me, it was just very unreasonable what happened, and I took it home with me, and it stayed with me for a few days, and I'm actually going back to that place tomorrow, and I'm thinking, should I? But yes, of course I'm going to go back there, and if need be, I will deal with it.
Yeah, like you say, I think that was one of my biggest learnings in life. People can only talk from their own perspective and their own experience. So even if someone's having a go at you, they're only telling you how they feel on the inside, and they're just giving it out.
Yeah, and running away from it isn't the answer. Dealing with it is the answer.
Yeah, so I just challenge things. If I feel anything, I call it when I get spiked.
Yeah.
So if someone spikes me, I do two things. The first thing I say is I'll totally own mine. So I go, the comment you just made, on the inside of me now, I'm running a lot of anger. Can you just tell me your intention and purpose behind that comment?
That's good.
When you ask them that, then they've got to own what they've just said.
Yeah, you put them right on the spot, don't you?
And the majority of the time, and I do it with love, it's all coming from love, but I'm running serious anger, and the last thing I want to do is to take my anger and give it to someone as a gift, because it's not a very pleasant gift, is it?
No, it isn't very pleasant.
Right. So I just say to them, what is your intentional purpose behind that comment? And they'll go, oh, Wendy, no, there was no negative intention. I'm just feeling really rubbish today, or I'm a bit stressed, and it makes them aware that, oh my God, I've just given something to someone that I actually didn't, my meaning was not that.
But sometimes, you can't think on your feet because of what's going on around you. And then you go away and you think, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that. So what's the way back once you've walked away and you've not thought on your feet and you've not been able to deal with it?
So again, breathe, allow it, forgive yourself for not doing what you wanted to do in the moment, and then just address the situation. So I will always finish a situation, so I'm not running something 6 months later.
Yeah.
And the majority of the time, that person that you've had whatever it is with is not even thinking about you. They've gone back off into life doing what they're doing, and it's only you, your mind reading and running all the stuff through your own head. So for me to be in a place of peace and balance, I like to just address things. So even after the event, if I'm not going to see him again, I might just get on the phone and go, you know what, the conversation we had the other day, I came away from that running masses of anxiety. Can you just tell me the intention behind it?
Yeah.
And again, it just means it's addressed, and they'll go, no intention meant at all, Wend. I was this, that. And I'll go, oh, lovely. Just wanted to clarify that one so I can drop this out of my system.
And can this work for when someone's been hurt by someone in the past? Can they still go back and address it that way? Or would it be best to forget that option and do some internal work instead?
Yeah, I would say in the internal way, what's it going to drag up? You have to weigh up your options.
Yeah.
So for me, I come from, quantum physics, energy background. So for me, my belief system is everything's connected, and you can do work now that releases stuff back then.
Yeah, so there's no need to go back and discuss it with the people or take them to court or do what you think you're going to do for justice.
Yeah, it's how much of an issue really is it for you, and can you send forgiveness into that space and let it go?
Yes.
Because as you've already said, when we're in a space of anger or regret, guilt, doubt, any of those, we're running cortisol. That's the main offender to illness within the body. So for me, knowing the knowledge of this now is, am I holding on to stuff back there that, it's not serving me, and every time I think of it, I run stuff around it?
Yes.
If I do, one of my things is I imagine the person in front of me, and I imagine how I would rerun that conversation in a different way for the highest benefit of both people. Then I just send forgiveness into the space.
That's really good.
And then I wait until I feel that in my body before I disconnect. And then I disconnect my energy totally from that space because I've sent forgiveness in. I don't need to phone the person up and say, I forgive you.
Yeah.
I can just send it out there. And then that gives me
because those people are gone, they've passed on.
That's it. It gives me a clean space. And if you really do get to the point where you have something rerunning and rerunning and rerunning, that's when you book a session. Come see me, and I'll reboot-your-drivers. It's like a ctrl-alt-delete for your computer system.
Yeah, it's an amazing way to describe it, because that's what we really are. We are an energy system, but our minds are also like computers. In fact, we're far more powerful than computers, and people don't understand that. And they don't understand why they get ill, but they get ill because of this fight-flight response, and all the hormones are raging around the body. And then they're not doing anything because there's nowhere for you to go. You can't fight, you can't flee. So you're just stuck there and frozen, and that's when things get stuck in there.
It is,
yeah. And they do display themselves. I have had serious pain in my neck, and of course that's related to injustice in terms of mental health.
Yeah.
And absolutely, it was related to injustice. But after having hypnotherapy session, I don't feel that pain anymore. I don't perceive that pain anymore, but the condition is still there.
I'm quite glad you've said that rather. When I have a client come in, or I'm speaking to someone who says, oh, God, I've got such bad pain in my lower back, I go, hold on one moment. I'm just going to have a look in Louise Hay's book, Metaphysical Reasons for Pain. Yeah. And it is really funny, because when you read down through it, and you go, oh, have you got any financial issues going on at the moment? Or are you worried about money? And they go, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just in the book. Yeah, that'd be your lower back playing up.
Exactly.
But it is how it does. If I get something in my body, the first place I do go to is I just have a quick look in Louise Hay and go, just out of interest. And then I go, right, now that's curious. What am I thinking around that at the moment? And then I go, oh, gotcha.
Obviously, it's not a specific science, but there is a lot of evidence to back the mind-body connection. Neuroscience and epigenetics now are doing marvellous things. And it's given us a greater understanding of ourselves, which, there is a place for orthodox medicine and for epigenetics and neuroscience to meet. And that gap is being lessened right now as we're talking, which is amazing.
I went to see Bruce Lipton a couple of weekends ago.
Yes, I saw the photographs.
It was lovely to just hear it from a different perspective. It really was. And the understanding as well that less than 1% of illnesses in the body are genetic. The rest of it is based on your environment. So the environmental factors that create a response in the cells that generate wellness or illness. Mm-hmm. When you look at it like that, you can start pinpointed in your environment. Actually, I'm not feeling great today. What's going on? What am I thinking? Who am I involved? Am I doing work I don't want to do? You can sort of, it's like a nice guidance system. You can go, something's not right with what I'm doing, thinking, saying, or behaving.
Yes.
So you can start to unpick and change things.
You can. And I just want to get back to your favourite quote, which is, attitude is everything, so choose a good one. So how could you guide someone towards choosing a good attitude? And what is a good attitude?
What's going to give you the best result? So if you think about it, when we do trainings, we work with something called knowledge, attitude and skill wheels. So you can have all the knowledge on the planet, all the skill in that field, but if you've got a bad attitude, you're not going to get a good result. Mm-hmm. So if you want to fully be able to access the rest of your system, you need the attitude that's going to allow you to create the best result. So what type of attitude do you need in all environments? Because you have to have a different attitude for different things you do. So for me, training this evening, the attitude that I will have for that is to be the best that I can be for those people. So that means having an attitude of being open, non-judgment, listening. So attitude encompasses many things as far as from my perspective, as far as I'm concerned. So that attitude for me is giving the best of myself so other people can learn. An attitude can be anything, can't it really? Like a nominalisation, something you can't push in a wheelbarrow. So you could have an attitude of love. If you could imagine going out with an attitude of love today, how would your day be different?
Yeah, I'm going to try that one later.
Yeah, if you had an attitude of peace and you went out, how would that change everything?
Yeah.
If you have a bad attitude, think about that. So people who go out and have a bad attitude, everything's bad, nothing's right, it's pessimistic, it's That will never happen. What does that do for your day?
You're going to attract exactly the same back, aren't you?
Yeah, so think about that. Just choose a word. I call them nominalizations. Anything you're not able to put in a wheelbarrow and push. So love, joy, motivation, determination, happiness. My new word is hapstappy. We created that the other day.
What does that mean?
It's just a combination of ecstatic, happy, and joy. So it creates a hapstappy state. We went on a strange website that you can put words together with, but we were playing on an NLP practitioner course. So just think about that. Think about what you want to leave the house with.
Yes.
What is the gift you want to give the world today? And that is your attitude.
And of course, Wendy, you just mentioned that you train in NLP. If someone wants to book on one of your courses, how can they do that?
Via the website. The best place to get hold of me is via my website.
And what training do you do apart from NLP?
So NLP practitioner trainings, lone worker trainings, hostility and behavioural awareness, performance coaching, the spectrum-emotional-coaching. So if someone wants to have a different tool for deep therapy that recodes experience and is non-traumatic. I train anything that you want in a school. So you give me a subject. I'm pretty much a trainer with many hats on. So I develop bespoke programs for companies, schools, sports teams. I'm a level 3 basketball, wheelchair basketball coach and a tutor. So I also tutor wheelchair basketball coaches. So I have this big spectrum of stuff I do.
You are amazing, Wendy. You really are.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, it's more, if you come to me and say, I have a problem, I'll create you a solution.
Fantastic.
That's what I like to do.
So you have been a wonderful guest today on Up Your Vibe, and I really thank you from the bottom of my heart, because, you know, we met quite by chance because I put an advert out on Facebook. So you reached out to me, and I am so glad that you did.
Yeah, thank you for this. It's been really nice to meet you in person, so to speak, and speak to all of your viewers.
Yes. Yes, well, this will be going live on iHeartRadio, on Coach on Fire. You can find Wendy also on Spotify and on iTunes as well. So you will get plenty of people listen to this, and I'm sure you will get plenty of people want to contact you. And just looking at you, I can see the absolute greatness that came out of your adversity, and there is no taking that away from you, because you have actually grown so much as a human being because of your adversity. And I believe that I have as well. So people say, oh, well, bad things happen to me. It doesn't matter. It makes you better if you choose to be better.
It's what you do with it. What can you learn from it? How can you grow from it?
Exactly. So thank you for being on the show, Wendy, and I will look forward to chatting to you again sometime.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, Paula.
Take care.